Hi everyone, and thanks for being with me. This week is the beginning of Parliament here in Australia, something to be excited about, something all of us should be cherishing as an opportunity to be able to see how terrible our politicians actually are. I'm going to do what I can to look at, review, study, understand what happens in Parliament, particularly during question time, because it'll be interesting to see how the Parliament is structured, given that there are so many seats that are held by the Labor Party and so few by the Liberals. So I will be reporting back to you on a regular basis on exactly where Question Time sits. So stay tuned for my feedback on Question Time and what I would often refer to as kindergarten for adults. So I'll be reviewing that for you. I also want to say that please subscribe to my channel, ring the bell for further notifications. Do what you need to do in order to help my channel. It's greatly appreciated. I also want to say that I have been doing some videos for the Child Protection Party, and some of those videos I think are really important if you're interested in the well-being of children, and particularly the issue in relation to childcare centres in Australia. I'm going to put the link to the Child Protection Party below. Really appreciate all of you to subscribe to that channel and to ring the bell for further notifications, because that's where I talk about issues relating specifically to the care of children. So please subscribe to that. It's in the link. It's in the link below. I'm going to have a brief discussion with you about where the government sits, I guess, in relation to Albanese's trip to China, and I'm also just going to have a brief look at the latest stats that have come out in relation to where the parties sit right at this particular point in time. It's an interesting analysis, so please stay tuned so that we can talk about that as well. But I'm going to start with a response by Peter Hatcher from the Sydney Morning Herald and the Age, who talks about what actually happened in China and his take on the Albanese's government and the decision to go to China, the decision to spend 6 days there, and what benefit there was for Australia as a result of that. Now, I've also posted previously some stuff on how Sky News view all of this, and we know that their take is extremely negative. So I just wanted to put a more positive spin on someone whom I respect as a journalist and who I think offers some insight into a reasonable insight, a rational view of what's happening in terms of the visit to China by Albanese. So I'll play that for you right this minute.
To you first, look, you've described the Australian foreign policy approach as maturing. What did we learn from this China trip about this maturing?
Well, the setting is important, and Australia's under siege, under pressure from Donald Trump. And there was a clamour we heard from the Liberal Party that Albanese shouldn't go to Beijing unless he'd been to see Trump first. Well, that would have given the Americans veto power over Australian relations with other countries.
Well, we're meant to put everything on hold until Trump agrees to the meeting.
Exactly. So what does Albanese do? He accepts the Chinese invitation. He accepts the friendliness, and of course the Chinese were keen to make this a showcase to the world of how China can be friendly and offer benefits to other countries, even US allies, in sharp contrast to Donald Trump. So Albanese makes the trip, starts some trade negotiations, and at the same time, as you've just pointed out, Australia hosts the largest warfighting exercises in its northern reaches that it's ever held, 19 countries. Now, Kevin Rudd has described China's way of managing Australia as one of pressure and release, sometimes at the same time. In one area you'll apply pressure, in another release. Well, what Australia's now trying to do, I think, is play the same game. You can have pressure through hosting these large military exercises. Penny Wong last week giving a pretty harsh speech about Chinese disruption and tactics, and at the same time gush over the pandas and offer more trade prospects to Xi Jinping. So I think it is a maturing where Australia is able to deal with both great powers, and when other countries do it, you see this with a South Pacific country. You'll see them playing the two great powers off against each other, and we can recognise that, and we say, oh, that's smart. And maybe we should do more to keep them on our side. But when we're doing it, which is what our government has just been doing, we seem incapable of seeing that. We hear all sorts of hysteria about how we should be doing more or less or whatever. But as you say, I think this is a more mature position of dealing with both the great powers.
Yeah, and Katina, the Prime Minister seems pretty untroubled, it must be said, by the criticism from the opposition here at home and some of the China security hawks as well about the length of his trip and the warmth of the trip.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to be able to get that perspective, to understand that there is a strategy here, and it is to I was going to say pander up, and I guess that's the appropriate terminology, to not necessarily suck up, but certainly to let China know that we are, they are an important trading partner with us, and that we need to develop that relationship. And they go on later on in the discussion, I won't play that for you, but they go on later to talk about green steel, which is really important to China as they try to decrease their carbon emissions, and how important that is for Australia. And there's lots of these undercurrent exchanges that would have happened in China that we don't know about, but which would eventually benefit Australia. So I think it's important, some of the things that Peter had to say, and it's worth acknowledging that there is a strategy here, and I suppose time will tell as to whether that strategy has worked, particularly at the time that we're holding military operations in Australia that includes 19 countries. So it's quite massive, and it is demonstrating back to China that we're serious about our military involvement in the Pacific region. So stay tuned for more of that. But I also have this particular take. Before I show that, I just want to show you this. So this is the federal two-party preferred at the moment in a poll that came out yesterday. And this shows that Labor's up 56% and the Coalition are 44%. The thing that we need to note about all of this is that Susan Lee actually is doing quite well in this poll, because Susan Lee is seen as a stark contrast with, obviously, Peter Dutton. So she's doing well, which is good for her, I think. Oh, no, I won't criticise any of that. I think that she has more to offer than what certainly Peter Dutton did. And certainly I think the Liberal Party are going to be more agreeable around some of the things that they need, that the Labor Party wish to pass in this session of Parliament, particularly in relation to childcare. And the other issue is decreasing the amount of loans that students have to pay back as well. So there'll be a lot happening, and I think the Liberal Party will certainly be far more agreeable around many of those issues than they have been under Peter Dutton, where they just simply rejected everything. They clearly have learnt that lesson. But so I just wanted to take finally to a take from Sky News in relation to this, where Morrow is talking about this latest poll and what they have to say, because for the Sky News, this is kind of like a bit of a slap in the face, I think.
Is so bad that many have wondered, many, including myself, if the Liberal brand itself is now so out of gas that it could go the way of the Tories in Britain, who are on their own last legs at the moment. Now, how bad is bad? Well, on the face of it, it's pretty not good. A new news poll has just dropped an hour or so ago, and I'll tell you what, it's not pretty. After preference flows on a two-party preferred basis, Labour has extended its lead to 57-43. That's up off the 55.2 to 48.8 two-party preferred they won at the election. Now, the coalition's primary vote now sits at 29%. This is the worst since news polls started comparing primary vote levels in 1985. And as far as preferred Prime Minister, well, Albo is on 52% to Susan Lee's 32%. But despite all that, let me give some glimmers of hope to everybody out there who's supporting the coalition and is still licking their wounds over what happened in May. And also, I might offer just a little bit of advice for the coalition?
Last thing in the world the coalition would want would be advice from this man. However, I think that it's worth noting that there is an upside to where the coalition sit at the moment, and even though they've got 3 years in order to get their act together, they kind of are getting it together, and I think that, to be fair to them, they need to be commended for any changes that they make post Peter Dutton. The man was a disaster. Politically, they were a disaster, and they were punished as a result of some of the decisions they made to challenge some of the Labor Party progressive legislation. So things are changing for the Liberal Party, and probably for the better. I've always argued that it's important to have a strong opposition because they keep the government that's in power, they keep them somewhat honest, I guess. So let's just keep an eye on what's happening in Australian politics, and I'll certainly let you know any changes or shifts that are specifically significant. And there's a bit of legislation that's going to be passed on Thursday, I believe, that will be worth noting as well in relation particularly to childcare. It'll be interesting to see where that debate moves to over time. And just remember to subscribe to the Child Protection Party. The link is in the comment section below. And in the meantime, please remember to subscribe to my channel, ring the bell for further notifications as well. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.